Joining us now from New York is former U.S. Representative Vito Fossella. He served 12 years in Congress as New York City's only Republican representative. He is currently the managing director of Park Strategies. Welcome back to Newsmax TV, Representative Fossella.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Well, the President's Council of Economic Advisors has written an open letter calling for serious and prompt attention on the federal budget deficit. If Congress doesn't tackle the deficit soon, are we headed for depression?
I think the problem we're having is getting out of the economic challenges that we've had for the last several years. While there seems to be some hope on the horizon, I think until and unless both the Congress with the administration as well as the Fed get their hands around the underlying problem of just structural deficits and overwhelming debt, coupled with high unemployment and interest rates close to zero, you're going to see a very, very difficult time of our economy growing at the rate it should be. And I do think that until and unless that happens, we're still going to have a tough sled ahead.
Now, President Obama and his administration are saying that failing to raise the debt ceiling would lead to economic catastrophe. Most Republicans are saying the opposite. Who's right here?
Well, catastrophe is probably not the best way to put it. I think the problem, or what's added to the catastrophe, is just the fact that people in D.C. can spend the money at whim and without any expectation. You know, why have a ceiling if you just keep raising it all the time? And don't call it a ceiling then. I think the American people who have witnessed and frankly went to the polls last November in large part said enough is enough. I think the responsible thing right here is finally truly addressing why and how we spend money the way we do and at the rate at which we do. I think that there's arguments on both sides, but when all is said and done, we're spending too much money, we've incurred too much debt, there's no constructive belief that the deficits themselves are coming under control. So I would point to those who say we're still spending too much, and if we're going to raise the debt ceiling at all, there should be some significant spending reductions attached to that.
Now, if we don't get the upper hand on the deficit and our debts and more control over our budget, what are the consequences to the average American?
Well, I think it's not just the average American that's going to suffer, but the generations to come. I don't know of too many generations that want to leave the next generation saddled with unnecessary debt and those deficits. So what you'll see is a stagnant job market. You know, we still have, as I mentioned before, millions of people out of work and looking for work, and we don't have the robust growth that's going to be needed to put those people back to work. We have a housing market that is still depressed. Probably 1 in 4 homes in America have a negative equity value, and if you don't have the jobs to allow people to go out and buy those houses and the credit that is necessary to facilitate house purchases and to get the economy moving again, if you don't have any of those dynamics, I don't see how growth is going to be what some people predict it to be. That is on the high side. If anything, it's going to be crawling along, and I do think that ultimately the folks who are going to pay the most are the hardworking taxpayer and the middle class and those who really are the engine of this economy.
Now, Republicans and Democrats remain at odds over the budget. Do you see a resolution on this one, or are we headed for a government shutdown?
I wouldn't be surprised at this point if there's a government shutdown. I think the sides, at least that are ultimately going to make the decisions, are relatively far apart at this point. There are those who don't see any real reason to reduce spending, and there are those who feel that the government is spending way too much, and a commitment was made to reduce spending by $100 billion, and their belief that it's not achieving it. After the last vote in the continuing resolution, where a large percentage of Republicans as well as Democrats defected on that continuing resolution, and I think the response to that has been, we gave you a couple of bites at the apple, but that's it. So I wouldn't be surprised if the next vote on a continuing resolution fails, and there may be a government, for lack of a better phrase, a government shutdown.
Now, Republicans are positioning themselves for 2012 with Representative Michelle Bachmann announcing today a presidential exploratory committee. What is your reaction to that?
Well, the more the merrier. I think what's going to happen is I think you're going to have ultimately a crowded field, and for a variety of reasons. One is you have many Americans who feel the country is running in the wrong direction. You have many Americans who've looked to Washington and wanted hope from an administration that offered hope, but in fact has just, I think, grown the deficits and the debt to an unseemly amount. You have people looking for work who thought they could get a job, but they haven't. You have our foreign policy, frankly, right now seems to be somewhat misguided as to where we are and why we're doing what we're doing. I think the ordinary American is frankly just looking for any change. So as a result, you're going to see a number of people throw their hat into the ring to seek the presidency.
What do you think of Donald Trump demanding that President Obama show his birth certificate?
Well, I actually happen to be a fan of Mr. Trump. He's done wonders in the private sector. He believes in this country. He believes in what the true entrepreneurial spirit is all about. He puts his money where his mouth is, and he's proud of what he's able to do. I think the question he has right now is one that's been on the mouths for many, but that's his prerogative to ask that question.
All right, Representative Vito Fossella, Managing Director of Park Strategies, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much.